Oh, we've tried that before. You've heard it. You may have even said it. And every time it lands in a team meeting, the conversation quietly dies. Not because it's wrong. Sometimes it's completely accurate. But it's because of what it does. It ends the inquiry. It signals that the effort isn't worth making. And it gives everyone else in the room permission to stop pushing too. Your team's language is doing something you probably haven't even noticed. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is video 3 of Hard Conversations, Better Teams. In video 2, we looked at the 3 forces that built your team's silence. And today, the language that keeps it in place and what your team's everyday complaints are actually telling you. Part 1, the complaint that isn't a complaint. Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy, researchers at Harvard Graduate School of Education, spent decades studying why smart, capable people consistently fail to change even when they want to. They're finding it's not about skill, it's about will. And it's about the hidden commitments embedded in the language that people use. Here's the insight that matters for your team. Most complaints aren't venting. They're competing commitments wearing a mask of frustration. When someone says, "We've tried that before," they're not just recounting history. There's a concern underneath that complaint that isn't being named directly. That concern might be, "I don't trust that this time will actually be different." Or, "Last time we tried this, people got hurt and nobody even talked about it." Or maybe this, "I was the one who pushed for it last time and it failed. I don't want to be in that position again." Those concerns are real and they're worth having a conversation about. But that's not the conversation that complaint invites. The complaint shuts down the inquiry. The real concern stays hidden. The team moves on without ever addressing what's actually in the way. Keegan and Leahy call this the difference between a complaint and a commitment. Every real complaint is protecting something that the person is committed to. They just haven't said it out loud. In fact, they're probably not even aware of it themselves. Which means that the loudest voice in your meeting isn't the problem. It's the clearest signal you have. You just haven't learned to read it. Part 2, the 5 phrases. Here are the 5 complaints I hear most often in K-12 team meetings. For each one of these, I'll show you 2 things. What the person is really protecting underneath, and the question the team never gets to ask because the complaint got there first. We've tried that before. Underneath, this person is protecting themselves from being responsible for another failed attempt. And because the complaint ends the conversation, the team never gets to ask, what would need to be different this time for it to actually work? How about this one? Well, they never follow through. Underneath this complaint is a person protecting themselves from being the one that has to hold an accountability conversation. So the team never gets a chance to ask, what's our plan for someone who doesn't follow through? And who's going to have that conversation? We just need more time. Underneath this complaint, the person is protecting themselves from making a commitment that can be evaluated. So the team never gets to ask, what decisions are we actually avoiding right now? How about this one? Not all kids are the same. Underneath this complaint, the person is protecting their instructional autonomy from what the data implies. So the team never gets the chance to ask, what would this data make us responsible for changing about our instruction? Oh, here's one. Admin doesn't support us. Underneath this complaint, the person is protecting the option to blame someone who isn't in the room. So in this case, the team never gets a chance to ask, what's within our control? And what do we actually need from admin to do it? Look, none of these are dishonest. Every one of them is protecting something real. But the point is, every one of them ends the conversation before the real conversation starts. Part 3, this is a system, not a person. Here's what Chris Ardress, he's one of the founders of organizational learning theory, called this pattern. He called it defensive routines. Defensive routines are communication patterns that organizations develop to avoid embarrassment and threat. They feel like normal conversations. They sound reasonable. And over time, they become the default way a team talks about its hardest problems without actually having to ever talk about them. Now, here's the objection forming in your head right now. If I start trying to figure out what people are really saying, isn't that manipulative? Who am I to decode my team? Fair, but this is not what that is. You're not psychoanalyzing anyone, and you're not playing therapist. What you're doing is the opposite. Instead of taking the complaint at face value and shutting it down, you're staying curious long enough to let the real concern surface. Decoding ends the conversation, but curiosity opens it. One assumes you already know what they mean. The other admits you don't and asks. The key word is routines. This isn't about difficult person on your team. It's a pattern the whole team learned together over time because it works. It kept the peace, moving the meeting forward, and nobody had to say the hard thing. You can't fix defensive routines by calling people out, but you can fix defensive routines by getting curious about what's underneath them and by building conditions where the real concern can finally be named directly. That's what phase 2 of this series is about. Before your next meeting, listen for one complaint. Just one. When you hear it, don't correct it. Don't challenge it, and just hold a question in your head. What might this person be committed to protecting? You don't need to say anything out loud. Just practice hearing the complaint differently. Instead of, oh, that's resistance, you might say, that's a concern that hasn't found its words yet. That shift in how you hear your team is where this work begins. You now know why silence was built and why the everyday language keeps it in place. Okay, so phase 1 is complete and you have the diagnosis. But here's the part that should change how you walk into your next meeting. The complaints you've been bracing against, the eye rolls that we've tried that before, and the 8 reasons why this may not work, those were never the resistance. They were the team trying to tell you what they're protecting in the only language they had. Phase 2 is where we give them a better one. It starts with a single foundation that makes every hard conversation possible. A team agreement that actually changes what people are willing to say out loud. That's video 4. Before you go, if you want to start auditing your own team's language right now, the language audit is inside the free Hard Conversation Starter Kit linked in the description. Hit subscribe so video 4 can find you. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.